Hello everyone, this is Harry here with another episode of our Thirsty Thursday. So Earl yesterday talked about glute med tendinosis. So I want to talk a little bit today about what is tendinosis and how is it different from tendonitis. I think people are more comfortable or more familiar with the word tendonitis, but there is definitely a difference between tendonitis and tendinosis. So let's go even back a step further. What is a tendon? A tendon is part of the muscle. So you have a muscle belly and on each end you have a tendon, and that's how the muscle attaches to bone. And that's usually the area of the most problems within a muscle. Muscle belly doesn't usually give us a lot of problems, but those tendons do, whether it's right at the point where they attach to the bone or somewhere between bone and the muscle belly. Now, the two different types of problems that are most likely to occur is tendinosis and tendonitis. So let's start with tendonitis. Tendonitis, and the word itis, anytime you see itis, think inflammation. Just like arthritis is inflammation, bursitis is inflammation, tendonitis is inflammation. So it's inflammation of the tendon. So usually something acute, it's a reaction usually to some sort of overuse. So either somebody went from 0 to 60 in too fast of a time frame, or they've just been doing the same thing, just too much rapid. A lot of times it's a rapid change in activities. So the tendon response, it's kind of like a stop sign, like, hey, stop, you're doing too much, with creating inflammation. So that's tendonitis. So it's an inflamed tendon. Usually the treatment is give it some rest, use some anti-inflammatory modalities. So that could be ice, it may be ibuprofen, something like that, on that tendon, and then you should gradually go back to activities once the tendonitis is gone. Now, when we have a tendinosis, that's really more the chronic phase. So an untreated tendonitis can lead to a tendinosis. Usually the tendonitis part maybe about 6 weeks or so. After that, typically a tendonitis is either healed up or probably has developed into a tendinosis. The difference between that from a clinical standpoint is really that the tendinosis doesn't have much inflammation anymore. There may still be a little bit left over, but now we're really going more into degenerative changes. And if you're not careful, this can start leading into some small tears in the tendon that can lead to bigger problems. Now, what's the treatment for it? A lot of times, it's not as much the ice and ibuprofen, it's really more start loading it gradually. So start loading that tendon. You still have to do it gradually, but you can be a little bit more aggressive putting some pressure on the tendon than if you had a tendonitis. Tendonitis is more rest, maybe relative rest. It doesn't have to be complete rest, but definitely some rest. Tendinosis is kind of a gradual progressive loading. But there's definitely a difference between the inflamed tendonitis or the more degenerative tendinosis. So hopefully you learned something today, and we'll see you next week.